Welcome to the Liberated Feminine Podcast. I'm Lucy Lampy, your host. And in today's episode, I have Julie Tran, a recurring guest on the podcast, although it has been a minute. And for those of you who don't know yet or need a reminder, Julie is a marriage mentor for women, and she helps women build their confidence to turn conflict into gooey love. I love that. And so her mission is to help women transform their marriage into a sanctuary, because when she is well loved at home, she remembers her magic and she changes the world from rest and inspiration instead of survival. So welcome back, Julie. Thank you for coming on again.
Hello, sister. So happy to be here.
Yes. And Julie and I we exchange a lot of voice notes, and we could have a whole book on them.
We really could.
Really good though, right? Like, here's 20 minutes, mini podcast.
On all the topics too.
All the topics, all the time. And it's real stuff. It's real life stuff. And one of these recurring themes also I noticed floating around in the collective relationship sphere is around decentering men. And so we were brainstorming this and we thought, you know what? This feels like something that we need to talk about in more nuanced conversation, because there is a lot of talk about decentering men, and rightfully so, because a lot of women, those of you listening, I know some of you personally can resonate with this. You get into a relationship and all of a sudden your entire universe revolves around this man, and your source of aliveness, your source of security, your source of joy, your source of nourishment is him. And it was never meant to be that. He's meant to be an amplifier of that. And two people secure in themselves and secure in their connection with their divine source creates a whole different thing. So if we're going to decenter men, we're going to center this instead. And so this is the conversation we're going to have today. So Julie, any leading thoughts here on what you've seen around this topic? Kick this off.
Yeah, I'm just so glad that we have this space. Thank you for sparking this conversation, because it is so nuanced. We need to dive into the different layers, and it's impossible to even scratch. We can only barely scratch the surface here, but we're going to do our best.
Yes.
And the nuances are so important, because without it, you can swing from one pendulum to the other. Like, I experienced this with myself within my relationship, and it took me from getting to a place where we were on the brink of divorce, and then going through my spiritual awakening and bringing us back together in this container of love and devotion, which was beautiful. But I noticed that I was also, going through my evolution and still centering him and still centering the way that things needed to be. And then more recently, I went through another awakening, and I was like, wow, I'm doing that. I'm at this new level or this next level of deepening that God is inviting me into, to expose what I'm doing in my relationship, which is centering my aliveness too much on him. And so that's just a little bit on my relationship, but I see this with my clients as well, where I'll have a client who is completely centering her relationship or her sense of self, her life force on his mood, on how he is treating her, how he's reacting to her, how he's feeling. And it is a complete depletion of her energy. And so what we're working on is decentering him. On the flip side, I have other clients who come to me and they get to a place where they decenter him, but they do it from avoidance. I'll just do me and he'll do him, and kind of avoid difficult conversations. So what we're missing here in both of these scenarios is this anchoring of who we really are and what we're really here to do, and this anchoring of love. So that's what long-winded answer to what shows up for me on that.
No, I mean, we're just getting started, people. Get comfy, get your popcorn, your tea, whatever. But yeah, this is exactly it. And I feel like, to be fair, with anything, we realize something is off balance. And so we go to the other extreme, and then we figure out that that's not quite it either. Then it's like, something still feels off about this, because it's almost this energy of a rebellion of well, fine then. I'm not even going to concern myself with what you need. And I remember seeing this too throughout the time I've worked with couples, where one person gets to the point where they say, okay, well, I don't know, you're hurt about this thing, but it's a you thing. It's not a me thing. And it's like, actually, it's a us thing. It's a you guys together, a couple thing. It's never, you're not an island in a relationship. So I think what is often missing is this embodied, beyond just a concept, but an actual embodiment in real flesh of two people that are sovereign, that are anchored into who they are deeply, not just on the surface, what they do as an occupation and the roles that they play, but really anchored into themselves. And from that place, secure enough to give each other the freedom to be who they really are. And for those freedoms to be compatible with each other. For those freedoms to be compatible in values, in life vision, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so all this is tied into this conversation, because if we're going to decenter the man in our relationship, that doesn't mean that we stop loving him or withdraw our love or affection or attention. It simply means you are taking him off the pedestal of your feelings, your well-being, your radiance revolving around his moods and how he's showing up. And that also absolutely requires us to be honest, which is vulnerable, about how they show up is impacting us. So I think that avoidance that you're talking about, it's like that, there's this sense of like, well, I'm upset about this. He said this, it hurt me, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm decentering him. No, part of it's like, okay, if you're decentering him, what are you centering then? You're not just centering your own impulses. You're centering something deeper. So in your experience, Julie, what is that like? What is that something that we're centering? If it's not our temporary impulse and it's not his mood.
I see it as centering love, centering God. And that's the tricky part, because it requires a deep amount of honesty and self-reflection and meeting your wounded parts to be able to see the difference on what does it mean to love in the moments when you have your partner. And yes, everything you said, ideally, both people are anchored and rooted in who they are, and your values are compatible. And many times, long-term committed relationships, if you're really in it, right, it doesn't always look pretty. In fact, there are so many moments where it's like I don't know, I'm envisioning like bombs in my head right now. Like it feels like these emotional bombs, right? Like that in your relationship, things that show up that you can't look away from. You can try to bury all the debris and the fragments and whatnot, or pretend it's not there, but it's there, and you got to address it. And so the question for me, how it shows up for me, and this is like the center of the work that I do with my clients because of my own past experience in my relationship, is how do we meet those moments and how do we center love in those moments? Because our ego could easily come in and say, that's a him thing. That's a him thing, and I'm out, or he needs to do the work. He needs to be more rooted. He needs to be more of a man. He needs to be more masculine, and kind of deflect the work, that we're here to do. Because in our relationships, I believe that it's like the greatest mirror for every single wound every single abandonment wound, betrayal wound, whatever it is that we're here to have freedom over. And so it is very nuanced, and you never get a manual. You never get the answer. Mm-hmm. You never get like the clouds parting and the angels say, this is love. This is what you do, right? But this is the way. This is the way. It's this continual inner exploration and asking yourself, how does love want me to show up right now? What is this revealing to me?
Yeah. That question. And a lot of this is about the quality of the questions that we are asking ourselves in these moments, because we are constantly asking ourselves questions. What does this mean? Why me? Why is this happening again? And a lot of these are so on repeat, we don't even notice. And so sometimes even just pausing to notice, what am I asking myself right now? What is the question that's on loop? And giving yourself a different question to drop into, like, what would love have me do? How would love have me show up in this? And a lot of times, I want to say there is this pattern that it's going to be inconvenient. It tends to be
highly inconvenient.
Yeah. And humbling.
And disruptive to your life.
Yeah. And it's not always, it's not always this whole, it's not like being the bigger person, being high and mighty because I'm the more mature one or the more emotionally competent, whatever the story is, but really choosing even what your higher self would do. Like, what would a future version of me do in this situation? What would the version of me in just the highest expression of love, not love that is like this illusion of love that's weak and kind of a pushover, but what is this calling forward in me? Also that question, what is this calling forward?
Because I think that, and everything you spoke to, like that is what truly leads to liberation. I think when most people think about decentering men let's just for now speak about it from like a more superficial level, and kind of like turning away from men, right? Mm-hmm. And from the place of it being avoidance, we think that is freedom. But it's really not. I don't think it is. I think it is.
It's like a step,
avoidance,
right? Well, it's a step, but it's not the end goal. Sometimes they need to look away to find themselves and realize where they've been so engrossed in the other person. But then it's like, that isn't it. You don't stop there.
Right. You don't stop there. And then it is a place to get honest with yourself. To really, you can have your moments. Like Lucy and I, we're not above having our tantrums. Okay. Yeah. That's what our voice notes. What I love about us is like, we're both, in the relationship space as teachers, but we go through our own stuff too.
Yeah.
And, I was telling Lucy, like I was just in Maui in paradise with my husband. And you would think that as a marriage mentor, I would have no problems. We would have no conflict. But no, even just arriving to the airport with our different like temperaments, our different personalities and pace of things, right? And when the stakes are high, right, things come up. And then when we were in Hawaii, and I think a lot of women who are in the content creation space can relate to this. But I was still on social media, showing up and launching. And when my husband saw that, I was sneaking away to be on my phone, sneaking away for a couple hours, being away from my family, it really upset him. Because to him, I wasn't being present with my family. To me, I felt really hurt by that because I felt completely unseen.
Yeah.
And for the vision that I'm creating. And there's more to that. But see, the old version of Julie and Chris, we would have turned paradise into hell. Because we would have been like, screw you, you don't see me, like you don't know me, right? But for me, decentering is actually facing it, taking the time you need and facing these moments, these glitches, these like blow-ups in your relationship, these potholes or whatever you want to call it, and not avoiding it. Because able to see what was showing up for me. I want to be honest with him. I don't want to just be this like, I'm not here to pretend that I'm this, this angel that, can rise above everything. No, this really hurt. And he's also hurting as well. So can we have an honest conversation about what's really here for us, what's true for us, and how we move forward from that? And because we did that, the rest of the vacation, we were able to connect. We were able to have our gooey time. We even got matching tattoos together.
Yeah.
And I got to be present with my family, and we came to a place where we both really understood each other. And to me, that's decentering him because I got to be present in my body, and I didn't have to ruminate about him. I didn't need to avoid him. You know what I mean? Like I got to just be me.
Yeah. And that's exactly, and to give people a little contrast here, what from my perspective, in that example, Julie, if you were to have centered him, it might have looked like you trying to appease him, you making it all about him and like, oh, I'm sorry, I made you uncomfortable, or pretending like it didn't hurt. And that would force you, that would require you to be inauthentic. And this is the cost often of centering him. is our inauthenticity and us swallowing the thing that needs to be said. Instead of being vulnerable and risking rocking the boat, when you decenter the man, you're going to rock the boat. It's naturally going to happen. But can you trust that, that you can survive the stormy seas and come back to a place of peace? Because you're going to get through that if you really do confront it head first. Instead of running away from it, it's going to come back one way or another.
And I think what you just said there is key. Like, can you trust yourself? Can you trust yourself to show up in those moments without your armor? And like, listen, our armor is up for a reason. It's up when we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so I never want to, make that wrong, because I show up with my armor too. But my work is to cultivate that internal safety within myself so that I can show up and feel safe to drop my armor and be vulnerable. And that takes practice. That is a skill. But it's a skill that any woman who is devoted to love can begin to get really good at and master.
Yeah. I remember with Brendan from literally the beginning. I was like, I do not hide my heart. Like, I will not hide my heart. And that doesn't mean every single feeling has to be spoken. Every single grievance is like a big thing. Everything needs to be a crash out. Like, no, that's not what this is at all. That can also be taken to an extreme, But it does mean that if something really did hurt, or something makes me excited, or I'm really happy about something, or I'm really turned on, or whatever it is, it's like, I am going to choose to let you see that. And that in and of itself was literally me decentering him, because a past version of me 10 years ago would have been like, oh, I don't know, is this going to make my man uncomfortable? Maybe this is going to be too much or too little, or he won't like it, or it's not the right expression. I just won't do it. And that was literally me centering him. So I think a lot of women don't realize that is centering men.
Yeah.
They're men.
I'm glad that you're sharing that, because for me, centering him looked different. Centering him looked like he needed to show up a certain way for me to feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he needed. Yeah, like he needed to match my emotional depth. He needed to not have an angry outburst, for example. Right? Let's say there's something really authentic for him. It didn't feel safe for him to have an outburst. So I centered him by making it known that that's not acceptable. And in the way that I was doing it, it just actually led to more of the experience that I didn't want in the relationship.
So it's like putting more emphasis on what was making you feel unsafe, putting more emphasis on that.
Yeah. And this aspect of like control. And for those who don't know, I am actually, I wrote my first book. It's coming out. It's coming out September 1st. And I write about this in my book. Book is called, it's part of an anthology, the BU brand anthology. And my chapter is called My Finding Your Way Back to Love. And I went through the whole writing this book experience had me unpack my relationship from the place of being on the brink of divorce and asking myself, how did we get from being madly in love to a place where my son at the time was looking at us and then saying like, Mama, you shouldn't marry him. Like, how did we get to that place? And what I realize is that something I learned about love from a young age is that love is control. I learned this from my mom when, I was in the kitchen as when I was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old in the kitchen, helping her make rice. My dad would walk into the kitchen, he would mosey in and he would come behind her and he would start tickling her and want to kiss her in the cheek. And she would just like look at him and she would squat him away. And she would say something like, that's inappropriate. And she would have like a frown on her face. But then when I looked at her, I was like, wait a minute. She's smiling. Bitch likes this. And so I thought to myself, wow, like she actually has the control over my dad. So that's love. So that's where I learned that, that's when I learned how to center men, center them by controlling them. And that's everything I had to unlearn to save my marriage.
Yeah, this makes sense too, because there is a safety in feeling like you're in control or you have the power in a situation or a relationship. Because there's also this piece of, when we are centering someone else, our radiance is dependent on them. It's dependent on. I know that this was one of the things that you've shared that drew you to what I do. It's like, how can I embody more of my own self-created joy, the source, not from the relationship? Because that's one thing that I really learned about myself. Like, I knew it, but I really got to experience it so deeply in my divorce that my radiance never came from my relationship. It never left me. It only got bigger. And so I was like, oh, I think I get it now. And then I dragged someone else from that space who can appreciate my radiance and wants to nurture it and doesn't want to own it, And because if I were to center Brendan, right, and be like, well, you're my everything, you're my source, you're my universe. First of all, a person who was truly secure in themselves and in a healthy place as a partner will absolutely not want to be the center of your universe. This might be a hot take, but they don't want to be your everything. They want you to be alive in your radiance, in your vibrance, your expression. And it's too much pressure, honestly, too, for one person, like for someone to depend on you for all of their joy. It's like, I want to add to it. I don't want to provide it,
Oh my gosh, this is the first time I'm sharing about this, but that was the hardest and biggest lesson that I learned in this last season in my relationship with my husband. By the way, I just want to say, like, Lucy, you are the GOAT at that, at seeing your own joy.
I'm like, you know what? If this works, cool. I'm still good.
I don't know how, it could look like everything's burning to the ground and you're still genuinely sourced, like joy, like sourced from your soul.
Thank you. Well, it's because I make space for all the feeling of heaviness too. And so it gets to all come through.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you. And I know that all of everyone listening here does as well. And so, you would think that as a marriage mentor, like that, well, let me rephrase that. I thought, and this last season was so humbling for me. I thought that, Chris and I had reached this place already where it's like smooth sailing. And yes, there will be blips. Yes, there will be little shakes here and there, but we can just roller skate past it. It's fine. But in this last season, ironically, as I was writing the book about finding my way back to love, it was one of the hardest and darkest seasons in my relationship with Chris. And I remember in this last blow up that we had, we were downstairs and there were a lot of things that were said that really, really freaking hurt. Like it hurt, like it crushed my heart. And I remember walking away and walking upstairs knowing that I was about to write the final piece of my book because I had the deadline and I was going up there to meet with my coach and we were going to write the final section of my chapter. And walking up the stairs step by step, it felt like an eternity because I'm like, what am I going to do? I feel like a fraud. And I sat down and I just had to get to work and channel the truth of this message and give myself grace because you never get to a place of perfection ever.
Yeah.
This is just a continual deepening of this work. And it was also a reminder for me of where my blind spots were and how there were ways that I thought I was practicing what I was preaching, but I really wasn't. I did to an extent, but I capped myself. And it was one of the hardest moments in our relationship and of my life. But it was the initiation that I needed to really like get to my altar and get to my practice and really allow myself to feel the honesty of like what was really showing up for me. What did I really need that I was not getting? How was what was I attached to? And what I discovered is that I was attached to my husband being the source of my aliveness. I was attached to, the time that we carve out so that we can, I call it our special time, our practice time. And different like structures that I created in our relationship to make sure that we're always connecting. And I realized that as much as I love that, it was coming from fear. It was coming from this fear that I would lose him, that I would lose love, I would lose connection. Because that was my source of aliveness. And sister, like, I know you get this deeply, like that was such a huge awakening because like I couldn't continue to live my life like that. I couldn't continue to coach my clients from that place. I needed to for real be the source of my aliveness and for real strengthen my relationship with God. And I would not have learned this lesson if I had not gone through that season. And now Chris and I are at a place where it's free. Like, he's like, something's different with you. He's like, you're less intense.
Yeah, it's like, you don't need me to show up any certain way. I'm a free man.
Yeah. And I just like
more for you in the ways that really matter to you. That's the thing, ladies.
Yeah. And he has been my best friend and my rock throughout this season because Lucy knows I've been going through a lot of health issues and it's challenging when you go through health issues with inside a partnership that it's, not gonna lie, it is challenging. And he has gone through his health issues. He has his own stuff that he's dealing with too. But I will say that we're at a place now where there's a whole new level of peace and liberation because we can just really be us without trying to perform, without trying to hold on to something that's not real.
Yeah.
And it's such a gift.
Yeah. No, the freedom, the real freedom in that, because we all need that freedom to be who we really are without feeling beholden to someone. And that's a very different thing than that healthy, as we would call it in like the more, I guess, psychological sense, a healthy attachment where you do rely on each other. And that's healthy. That's not weird. It's not unspiritual. Like, it's a very human thing to be interdependent, and beneath that, to trust that no matter what, you're going to be okay. That you're gonna make it. That even if this person, whatever happens with that person or this person or your partner, that you're gonna be good. It's that fundamental trust in life, in what's meant for you, that creates this freedom too. Because behind every time that, for me, when I really reveal my heart, and I don't know how it's going to be received, and I don't know what's on the other end of that, regardless of how much trust has been built up from evidence of how he's typically responded, and it's favorable and whatever, but it's still, you never know. You never know. That could be the day that he's just like over his edge and he's just doesn't have capacity and he's like, I don't know if I can do that, And there's always that risk that we run by revealing our hearts to another person. But then beneath that, to be able to trust, I just trust. I trust.
Yeah.
And that need that.
And I also think that is your greatest protection, because if you don't trust, then you're exposing yourself to being potentially abused in a relationship.
Yeah.
And staying in a relationship when you're not meant to be there. But when you trust in yourself and you trust in your higher source, that you're going to be good no matter what.
Yeah.
And then you know that you don't have to attach yourself.
That you don't have to cling on to something when it's expired. It's just rotting and you're clinging on, and it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so really the deeper thing here, beyond just decentering men, is actually anchoring in. Because it's like, if you're tethered to your man being your source, your everything, your universe, your like source of happiness, and you untether from that, what are you anchoring into instead? You're not just going to be floating out here, like just wandering. I don't know. What am I doing with my life now? What am I committed to? What's my purpose? And that's okay if you're in that question, those of you listening, because you're trying to, I know a lot of people who are I personally know a lot of people who are dating, and they're looking for their person. They're looking for a committed relationship, and they're like, well, I don't know. Nobody seems to want that. And so I'm just going to forget about men for a while. But then they do that for a while and then they go back to dating, and it's the same thing. It's because you got to anchor into what is your deeper, that real source of everything that you are here living for. And so however someone would define that for themselves, but I define that as this unconditional love and the source of that. And so sometimes that looks very fierce and blunt and direct. It's not all fluffy rainbows, clouds, sunshine all the time. And sometimes it's very humbling. And it's like, I got to get over my fucking self and show up in this way. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. Right now, we're facing the imminent death of an immediate family member. And it has not been easy. And there's been a lot of, grief is weird like that. It comes in waves. And then some days I just, there's that space that's needed, and then you lean in, and some days you got to lean back, and some moments you got to really, create more safety. And so it's a constant attunement to what's alive in the relationship. And that's brought us closer. And so again, without going into details, but just so that, giving that context of, if I were centering him, then I would be tiptoeing around. I'd be like, how are you feeling today? Am I allowed to be myself today? Am I allowed to be myself today? Or is it too much? I don't know. And I just get to be
Lucy,
free.
you guys can't see that she's on video. She looks like a half fairy, half gremlin.
Creature. Yeah. Ironically, when I'm in creature mode, it kind of like, it like brings more like alleviation into the mode.
It always does.
Mode.
Life hack, creature mode.
Life hack, just be weird. And then I find out that one of the things he appreciates most about me is my weird, goofy laugh that's bit when I laugh. I mean, who knew? So it's not my...
Well, it's not surprising because we all love that about you too.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I was going to say, also like to me, centering love could also look like choosing to expand your capacity to meet the moment.
Yes.
Because there's this line that I heard, somebody was sharing this to me in the context of expiring a relationship, a family relationship.
Yeah.
And her closing statement was, I've done everything in my power. And for some reason, when I heard her say that, it was a snagging in my awareness. Like, there's something here. It's like, what is this? I realized that it's not that, because I hear this a lot in the collective. I've done everything in my power. Okay, we're done. Right. And I don't want to demonize that, because that is liberating. That can be very liberating and true and real and right. However, if we want to talk about nuance, there's nuance to that. Because sometimes it could be avoidance as well, masquerading as empowerment. And the way I think about it is that your power grows when your capacity grows.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that you've ever done everything in your power. I think you've done everything in your current capacity. And if in your current capacity, you say to yourself, okay, I'm really done with this relationship. I'm done. I've given it all that I want to give it right now. And I have no more capacity left. And I'm not willing to grow my capacity. Then that is a true statement.
Yeah.
But if you say, I'm willing to, love is called, and maybe for you, that is love. And that's beautiful. I honor that. But maybe in another dynamic or another situation, love is inviting you to expand your capacity to meet these rougher, harder edges, these explosions, these potholes in your relationship. Because if you don't expand your capacity to meet it, you're going to just be running into the same potholes in other relationships.
Yeah, that part. And I think that innately, oh gosh, this really reminds me too of my own my own journey, I think I've shared with you personally and probably on other podcasts at some point that the hardest, most painful, most crushing, most like, fuck this shit moments in my marriage before, it wasn't those moments that I actually knew it was complete. It was actually very peaceful. And it was, I remember in the most chaos, I knew deep down, if I walk away now, I am robbing myself because there's something here that I am meant to expand, meet more of myself. And so it like the deeper question in my heart was like, what part of me have I not become? Have I not like owned? Have I not inhabited that this is requiring me to touch? And it's uncomfortable. And I feel so like not familiar with this. And that's where I got my bearings. And so now in this relationship, it's like a lot of this is new for Brendan, because he didn't have a blueprint or an example growing up at all of what marriage is, what a healthy relationship is. And a lot of his resistances have come from that because it's just there's no like reference point. So he's literally creating the reference point. Like we're creating it together. And so he told me the other day, he's like, yeah, you're like the coach who's like making the team run the suicides. I don't know if they call them that anymore, but he's like, and I'm at the end and I'm like, I can't, I'm cramping. And he's like, no, and you're like, do it again. He's like, you're that person in my life when it comes to intimacy. And I have grown so much because of it. I'm like, oh, damn, that's intense, but I get that. I'm like, respect, because I do it. He says, I do it with so much love and consistency. And this, I'm not going anywhere. Like I've been through the fucking fire. I got the stamina and the resilience for this. And I'm calling you forward. And so I get to do that now because I went through the fire, so it's like sometimes, and if I hadn't, this is a part I wanted to emphasize for those listening, if I hadn't, I would be needing to learn that now. I wouldn't get to bring that gift. And this is not to say to people to stay in something that is just bad for you, misaligned, abusive, anything like that. Deep down, you already know what you need to do. First, like honor that. Now you're just negotiating with yourself about the consequences and how you're going to do it. But that's, beside the point. I just want to emphasize everywhere you go, there you are. And so you're going to take that with you, whoever you have become. So use that as an opportunity. How can I inhabit more of my full self in this situation?
I hear Chris he's finding his phone. It's like you're ringing.
Just find my iPhone. Ding, ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding.
Sorry, you have to edit out this part. Like, hey, honey, do you need help? I can't help you right now.
To pick up where we were before. Oh, just this, this idea of what serves love best and recognizing that love is going to be inconvenient. It's going to humble you. It's never going to force you to go against your, like the real truth of your heart, like your soul, your depths, but it will force you or require you to expand. It will require you to get out of your comfort zone. Just period. I think people confuse that. They're like, oh, what serves love best? That's such a airy-fairy maybe question, confusing it with what's the most comfortable, convenient thing. And that is not what this is. And,
there's also a confusion with like that being martyrdom too. And it's not that either.
Yes. What would self-sacrifice? This is not self-sacrifice. Sometimes what's in service to love means actually choosing yourself in something. And sometimes it means humbling your own ego and just eating it.
Yep.
And there's no clear-cut answer for this, y'all. This is the point.
Yeah. And I would say that what really helps is choosing to expand your capacity. Because when you do, you have more access to meeting love. You have more access to play with your edges, to expand, to have to deepen your own emotional intimacy with yourself, to know yourself, and emotional intimacy with your partner.
Yes. And so for that too, in a very practical level, we've got to create space to anchor into that love. And so in a heated moment, for example, to be able to have our own spaces to go into and to tune in, what's true for me? Can I separate that the facts from the feelings? Can I separate my experience from my projection of their experience and just really let myself be humbled by the presence of love? And another thing too that I like to personally invite is this statement of, show me what I'm not seeing clearly. Show me what I'm not seeing. What am I not seeing clearly? Because if my emotions are just like, and it's a tornado and I'm having this very real human experience, which I'm not going to bypass, but there's something I'm not seeing. And maybe it's a perspective. Maybe it's like spirit, God, universe, your guide, somebody showing you this vision, some bigger vision that gets you out of your little immediate, can't see the forest through the trees moment. You know, it could be that, but you never will know if you just kind of distract yourself and busy yourself and don't create space to get curious.
I am so glad you brought that up, because I think that piece is the bridge that is not often explored enough. Because what I find is that we can be kind of addicted to emotional release.
Yeah.
Which feels really good, by the way. So.
Yeah. The catharsis, I mean, it's very real feeling you get. So, right. Yeah. But that's not processing emotions.
Yeah. That's help. That is so helpful, and it's important, and it's a piece of it. But the other piece of it is like, once you create this space, once you create this clearing, there's an opening. It's almost like I vision it as like a channel opening up, maybe in your crown chakra, where information can come through, and it allows you to see something from a different perspective. And it's not like seeing it from your head. It's like, it's seeing it in your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the beginning of the transformation in whether it's your relationship with yourself or your relationship with your partner.
Yeah, exactly. And that vision, knowing that vision, it's not something you fabricate in your imagination or your logical thinking. It's literally like a third eye vision, a vision of the heart. For anyone who's ever done a plant medicine journey and had a beautiful experience there, it's like you see the vision. It's not a visual eyeball thing. It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. And it's also like, I feel, for me personally, and I think that it may show up differently for different people, but like for me, I feel like a softening in my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right? Yes.
Yeah. And that's when I know that, like, okay, I've gotten somewhere in this work, and now I'm ready to have this challenging conversation, or this like sensitive conversation, because I know that I'm not going to be coming from my head and protection. I know that my heart is now open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then we're no longer centering his comfort or his convenience, which is another thing, by the way, another way that we center men. And we're also no longer centering our own, but we're centering something that actually, it encompasses all of it. Like it benefits all of it. So it's not either you or him. It's actually this bigger thing. Like, why are you together? What is this thing that you're doing together? And can you be in service to whatever that is that brought you together? And again, that is not the same as martyrdom. It's not. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different threads we could explore here, but I think that will, hopefully that gives you some things to chew on and digest and like ponder for those listening. And I also wanted to invite Julie to share where listeners can find your work and your new book.
Yes. So the foundation of my work is my program called the Inspire Him Immersion. And plot twist, it's not about him, it's about you. And it's really about cultivating that safety, that trust within yourself to be able to meet these moments, to expand your capacity for love. And so you can find out more about me and my programs on my website, gooeylove.co/link, or you can just go to gooeylove.co. And also, yes, I wrote a book. It's being published, I think like right now. And it's coming out very shortly. And so I would love your support on this. If anything that we talked about here resonated with you, then you can join my book launch team, and you can find the link in the show notes and on my website.
Amazing. I'm going to include that in the show notes. So we have gooeylove.co to check out everything that Julie is offering there. And well, thank you so much, sis, for being on this conversation with me. Such an important one right now.
I know. Thank you so much for having me. This was really important and so much fun. And just thank you for who you are in the world. I adore you. And I look forward to seeing you in September for your retreat.
Yes! By the way, anybody listening?
Yes, by the way, if you're listening and you're considering, I went to Lucy's retreat last year, and to say it was life-changing would be an understatement. So definitely check it out.
That was a wild experience. And y'all,
oh my God.
Woo, girl. We're going to be going deep into the erotic embodiment and the pole. And this is not a pole boot camp, okay? It's not a pole boot camp. So you don't have to be a certain level or a certain level of fitness. Just like if you want to be more in your body and feel more expressed and like the erotic yumminess of your own radiance with other women, like, okay, join us. I'm going to put that link in here as well for anyone because we still have some spots available. September 21st through 27th. So thank you again, Julie, and for everyone listening. And here is to liberating your wild feminine heart.
I be the best. I'm your little porn star. You bring the boom, I bring the bass. Give me a taste, they me the waste. I'm your little plaything.